welcome to another episode of Grand Football TV. It's a different kind of episode today, guys. It is the international break. So what we are going to be doing today is looking at the first 7 games of the Premier League. And what we are going to be looking at is what we have learned, who's flying, who's failing, and who's under pressure. Yeah, so let's get into it, guys. Welcome. If you're just joining us for the first time, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you everyone who has been following our videos so far. Yeah, so what are we expecting from this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, today? Yeah, we are going to be looking at the lessons so far, the surprise team, the underperformers, the standout players, the disappointments, the players yet to prove themselves, and the managers on thin ice. Who are the managers who are on the brink of maybe getting the sack? We will look into all of that. So, what have we learned so far this season? The first one, what have we learned? There are early signs, guys. There are early signs of the usual suspects still being at the top. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, they are setting the pace. They are setting the pace. But we can see that there are also cracks with these teams, like we have seen lately with Liverpool. They lost their last 2 games, so we can see that there are cracks there. Arsenal, handbrakes on. The game against Liverpool, if they had come out better, they probably would have won it. The game against Man City, we saw that they could have done better if they had started off well. And for Man City themselves, you've seen them lose games, which normally happens under Pep when they start a new season. They don't normally start very great and eventually they just pick up. But this one seems different. The way they lost against, was it Brighton? Yeah, they lost to Brighton. And the way they played against Arsenal as well shows you that this is not the same City team. This is not the same team that we know, And we can see that depth in squad matters. That is what we have seen as well, what we have learned from this first 7 games. A typical example is Arsenal. Almost every game, Arsenal has lost a player. And not just losing a player, they've lost important players. But because of the depth in the squad, the fans are like, yeah, we've lost Odegaard. Yeah, Waneri can come in. Yeah, Zubimendi can come in. Yeah, Eze can come in. They've got that depth in the squad now where they're not feeling the players going out injured. Madueke is injured now for Arsenal, but Saka is there. Who was there? He was injured before and now he's back. Havertz is injured, but there's Gyökeres. If Gyökeres cannot play the full 90 minutes, they can bring on Marino or just switch things around, So that squad depth is important. And another thing we've learned is that the promoted clubs, they are punching above expectations. We will come to that even later in the video, but I'm just happy for the newly promoted teams. I mean, they're not all looking like they're going to survive, but you can see the fight. You can see the fight. They're not just laying down for teams to just come and roll them over in every game, So that is very, very good. So it is important that they keep it up for the whole season. Otherwise, it might just be one of them ones where you start off well and then fall by the wayside. No. Yeah. So this season as well, we have seen some late goals on show. We have seen more late goals this season than ever before on average, according to the Premier League stats. Yeah, a goal is being scored in the final minute, the 90th minute or later, every 2.9 games, which is more often than any other Premier League season that we have had. And it's just ahead of the 2023, the 2024 season, where it was over every 3.4 games. And a typical example is Liverpool. You know, we've seen them being on both sides of that, situation. They've had 90th minute winners on 2 occasions this season. One against Newcastle, where Ngumoha scored that winner for them, and against Burnley as well, where they won 1-0 very late on in the game. But they've also experienced it themselves. The 2-1 loss to Crystal Palace, and of course, the most recent one, the 2-1 loss to Chelsea. Arsenal as well have experienced it. They had a late winner in the game against Newcastle. Yeah. And a late equalizer in the game against Manchester City. So we're seeing that this season, they're late goals. Late goals are a thing. They are a thing. So we are seeing as well that the preseason hype and big money signings don't always yield instant success, guys. It doesn't always yield instant success. Integration takes time. Just like we're seeing with Liverpool. They're trying to integrate all those players that they've bought this season. Even Arsenal. Everyone's looking at their striker. He's trying to integrate into the team as well. And it's the same for every other team. Yeah. So that's what we have learned. Then let's look at the surprise packages for the season so far. For me, the Brentford team are doing really well. Before the start of the season, if you watch my video, I put Brentford to be one of the teams to go down. And I had my facts for that. They lost their manager. They lost their captain. They lost their 2 main strike force in Wissa and Mbumo. So come on, guys. Even if you're replacing all those guys, it probably take time. But so far, Keith Andrews, he's done a good job. And they're not just lying down in games. They're not just lying down and taking a beating. They're fighting. Look at Man City the other day. Man City beat them, but it was a very hard game. In fact, if Thiago was more clinical in that game, who knows? They might have finished that game in a draw. But City only won 1-0. And I'm sure Brentford would remember their big win against Manchester United. So that's a very good one for them. Another team that is, well, you wouldn't say really a surprise package, but they've exceeded expectations so far is Crystal Palace. Oliver Glasner is doing a great job with Crystal Palace. He won them the FA Cup, won them the Community Shield, and this season they've carried on. They're doing really well. You know, their defense has been solid. They've been very solid. They've picked up results against bigger teams, and with the notable one obviously being against Liverpool, where they were able to beat Liverpool. And they could have still drawn that game, but they kept on going. Even when it was 1-1, they still got the chance to get that over the line and get that 3 points. So well done to Crystal Palace. Another team that also needs talking about is Bournemouth. They merit a mention in this, guys. I'm sure you would agree with that. Bournemouth and Andoni Iraola, they've been doing a great job. Look at their forward line. Semenyo's doing really good. We'll talk about him soon. Yeah, but don't forget, before the start of the season, Bournemouth lost 4 people from their back line. The goalkeeper, Nkepa. They lost Kerkez, Hodgson, and Zabani. Come on, guys. That's a lot of players to lose at the back. And they still end up doing really well so far after 7 games. They're doing really well. Another team to look at is Sunderland. Sunderland. They're looking to be pushing above their weight. They currently sit in ninth position on the table, but no one would have thought, any of the newly promoted teams would be doing the way they're doing. In fact, if you look at our predictions, a lot of people went for the newly promoted teams to go straight back down. Yeah? Again, special mention to all the newly promoted teams, Burnley, Leeds, and obviously Sunderland. Because Burnley, although they sit in 18th now, it's nice to see that all these teams are making sure they're not just coming to games and being rolled over. No, they're putting up a fight. They're doing really well, Only Leeds have actually gotten a thumping this season from Arsenal when they lost 5-0 in that game. And you could say maybe Burnley when they lost 3-0 to Tottenham. But apart from that, even look at Burnley against Liverpool. They fought till the end. Against Man United, they fought, But, they weren't rewarded with the results they would have hoped for, but they were fighting. They were fighting in these games, And the main thing with these clubs is that they're showing structure, they're showing organization, they're showing confidence, even, to compete in these games. And long may it continue for the season, so we don't have a boring season where we know who's going down and who's already winning. Yeah. Number 3, let's look at teams not at the races yet. Those teams who you would say that maybe they're still in holiday mode, not ready for the season yet. One of them is Nottingham Forest. Considering how well they performed last season, guys, they are not at the level that you would expect them to be. And what even made it worse is that they sacked Nuno not long into the start of the season, which, in my opinion, was not a great idea. And they brought in Ange Postecoglou. And guess what, guys? He is still waiting for his first win. They are just sitting above the relegation zone, and we'll be hoping for an improvement when the international break is over. I'm sure Andrew will be hoping for that, because he needs to get his team playing and getting results on the table. They're even losing games at home, which wasn't the case last season. Yeah. Another team is Manchester United. Coming into the season, they had heavy expectations, especially when they brought in those 3 guys up front, Sesko, Mbumo, and Cunha. But the results haven't matched those players that they have in front. They've had loads and loads of weak performances within those 7 games. The only people you could say they've beat now are the newly promoted teams. They've beat Burnley, they've beat Sunderland. Who else have they beat? I don't think they've beat anyone else. They beat Burnley, they beat Sunderland. So the people they've beat this season are the people who have just come up, which isn't normally associated with Manchester United. But at the moment, that's where they are. So they have to start playing well. You could say Manchester City as well. Manchester City, in as much as they started picking up points now, but they didn't start the season well. They went at the races at the beginning, losing to Brighton, and there was another game they lost. I'm trying to remember who they lost to now, but they've lost 2 games already this season, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. But they've started picking up points now, so maybe things have changed for the better for them. Another team you could look at is Newcastle. You could say they were affected by the whole, Isak transfer saga. And, that weighed them down. And the fact that most of the people they were trying to bring in were refusing to come to Newcastle. They would rather go somewhere else. The likes of Sesko, the likes of Mbumo, and a few more. But they've got a few players in now. And in as much as they didn't start well, they're starting to play well now. They're starting to, get their acts together. And you can say that Walter Made is a good replacement, don't you think? It's a good replacement. Okay, let's look at the players who have impressed the most. The players who have impressed the most. For me, Erling Haaland is doing what Erling Haaland does, scoring goals. So far, he's got 9 goals already in the Prem. He's got 12 goals in all competitions. He's doing what he's supposed to do. So he's one of them ones who has impressed so far. I know everyone would say, well, that's what he does, but you've got to give him credit. To go on and start doing it again this season is something to be commended. Then another player is the new signing for Arsenal, Christian Mosquera. He has impressed me, guys. You know, he came in to replace Saliba in that game against Liverpool, and boy, was he magnificent. And he was magnificent up until Saliba came back. In fact, he's only put a foot wrong in maybe a few wayward passes, but that's it. He has played really well when called upon. And don't forget, he's only very young, you know, and he was very, very good value. 13 million for Christian Mosquera. I heard someone say, what was Spain thinking when they let him out of the country? You know, because he's such a good defender and could go on to do great things with Arsenal. So yeah, well done to Christian Mosquera. Another player is Hugo Ekitike at Liverpool. He has been very good, guys. Apart from getting himself sent off in that game, the Carabao Cup game, he has been very good going forward for Liverpool. Very electric. But the worry is now that Isak is in the fold, you never know, will he get as much game time this season to really be one at the end of the season you will say has really had a great season. Only time will tell. We'll see. Another player in my thoughts is Antoine Semenyo, you know, at Bournemouth. Now he's looking very good, guys. And if you do FPL, I'm sure you'll be happy to have him in your team. He's got 6 goals already and 3 assists in 7 games. Oh my way, that is good return. That is good return. He's doing really well. And I'm sure even after the international break, he'll probably carry on from where he stopped. Another player to look at is Jack Grealish, who is on loan from Man City to Everton. He looks like he has settled very well to life at Everton. He has delivered so far 4 assists and a very crucial goal in the game against Crystal Palace in their last game. So it's a very good return for someone who looked like his career was taking a big decline, you know. So well done to him. And we have to have some special mentions. Yeah, special mention to Dominic Szoboszlai. He's had a good season for Liverpool so far, considering all the new signings that have come in. He's making sure he's still one to be reckoned with. Mohamed Kudus in his new club is doing well. Jadon Anthony at Burnley. Isidore at Sunderland, remember him? He's come on like 3 times and got a goal for his team. Walter Made at Newcastle. Yeah, he's such a good player. Did you see that penalty against, who did they play in their last game? Oh my days, that penalty, no keeper saving that, you know. No keeper is saving that. That was a good one. Igor Thiago as well at Brentford. He's doing really well, although he should have got that goal for them against City, you know. But so far, he's done well. I think he's got about 4 goals so far. So he's doing really well. So let's look at players who have disappointed this season so far. And who else to start with but the one and only Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah has been a disappointment so far. You know, he's not, you know, at that elite level that we know him to play at. You know, surely he will pick up. He will pick up. But at the moment, what we see is not what we expect normally from Salah, based on how he plays. So I believe he's one of them ones that will be on everyone's lips when you say who has not impressed so far this season. And another player is Victor Gyökeres. Yeah, there is high hopes for him, all Arsenal fans will tell you, because of what he did in Portugal. In as much as it's still early days, and you can see from his last couple of games that he's improving, but you know what he's being paid to do: score goals. So that's what everyone would judge him. So hopefully he gets more goals, but at the moment, it's not looking good enough. Another player is Florian Wirtz at Liverpool. The big money move, from Bayer Leverkusen to Liverpool. He's a player that everyone admires, but so far, he hasn't delivered. It's starting to get to that point now where he'll probably be mentioned every time until he starts playing really well. But some would say he's come from a different league, so it's important to give him time to settle in. Yeah, but sometimes I agree with that statement, but when you're a good player, it doesn't matter how long you've been in that league or how long. You should be doing things that would give everyone hope and say, yep, he's not getting goals, but you can see what he's doing. He's taking on players, doing all that, but we're not seeing much of that from Wirtz at the moment. That's why he's going to be mentioned in everyone's lips when it comes to who is the player that has been disappointing so far. It's the same for Alexander Isak. He's a different kind of player now. He has been in the league. He was at Newcastle, so he knows this league. It's not one of them ones where you're trying to say, well, going to wait till he tries to settle down. The only thing you could say, he's settling down into a new team. So they don't know his runs. They don't know the things that he does properly yet. But apart from that, he needs to start, getting himself into the team. And some would argue he never had a proper preseason because of the whole transfer saga. So that's why he hasn't been great. But he needs to start imposing himself, guys. He needs to start imposing himself in games. So, okay. Let's look at players who the jury is still out on. I would say, again, the likes of Gyökeres, Sesko, Cunha, Mbeumo, Wirtz, and Isak. The jury is still out, because some would ask, will they deliver long term? Will they deliver? Some of these players have been in the league already before. So coming into this new team and not performing yet, that's why the jury is still out. Maybe for one or two reasons, I'm just going to hang on and see what they do. A lot of them have come in with big price tags. So they have to live up to that price tag. Will they live up to that price tag, do you think? Or will they fade under pressure? Who knows? They probably fade under pressure. Okay, lastly, let's look at managers on the brink. Ruben Amorim. Well, the owners have come out recently and said they're giving him 3 years to do what he needs to do. But if he keeps on with very bad results, trust me, the owners will revert on what they've said, because Manchester United, they're a big team, and obviously everyone will be expecting big things from them every single time, and they're not delivering. So I'm sure everyone will be on their case very soon. Everyone will be on their case. Another manager, in my opinion, who is on the brink, I would say, is the Nottingham Forest manager, Ange Postecoglou, just like we mentioned earlier. He hasn't had a win yet since he has been appointed. So who knows if he would last the whole season. Because if he carries on like this before Christmas, he might be gone. So he will be wanting his team to do really well and get some good results before the end of, well, we would say before the next international break. He would want to see some good results, in my opinion. Another manager, in my opinion, is the manager for Wolves, Vitor Pereira. I mean, Wolves just gave him a new contract, and obviously he's ended up winning a game, I think, but they've been on the brink, getting too many draws and losses. They sit bottom of the league at the moment. So I know they've given him a new contract, but if the results don't change, you could see things changing there as well. You know, he was the one that came in, don't forget, last season to take them out of this problem. So you would imagine he has what it takes to help them to survive, just like he did last season. But will they give him the time to do that? Will they give him the time? Only time will tell. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So it is important that we know that with high financial stakes, big squads, they mean nothing. They mean nothing if you're not getting the results on the table. They mean nothing, you know. So after 7 matches, guys, we've still not got proper clarity at the top, because the top is still looking very tight. Yeah, we can see the surprise teams emerging. Yeah, but many questions still remain. The next few weeks will really show who rides the wave and who drowns in expectation. Yeah. So don't forget to look out for our next video. Our next video will be looking at the fixtures for game week 8. Yeah, I should be looking at the fixtures because by then the international break should be over. Don't forget, guys, to leave your thoughts. Which team has been your surprise? Which manager do you think is doomed? And which player do you think will turn it around? Which manager do you think will turn it around? Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on this one today. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Yeah. So don't forget again to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Yeah. We're a new setup, so we need all the love from you guys. Love for the love, guys. Thank you so much. Just like Turkish would say. Yep. Thank you, guys. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Don't check this.